Hello and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes, the Story Screen podcast where we see new movies again now. Before we just saw movies that were new to us because there was the global pandemic, but now we're starting to see movies as they come out, kind of classic style, like Coca-Cola classic. We're not the only podcast on Story Screen. Before we jump into it, just so you guys know, you're listening to this content. We really appreciate it, but we have so much more content on our website. We have a members-only service where you guys can go on there and find even more content.
It's only $5.
It's only $5. Woo! Hey! It's only $5. Shut up! It's only $5. And you get a lot of cool stuff with that. You can go on our YouTube where we put a lot of really cool content on there as well, of the more visual variety. We also have a drive-in, if you didn't already know, so come check that out. And then we're recording right now here in the Story Screen Theater in person, something we're getting back into. I know it's weird for me.
This is my first time in person.
The voice you're hearing right now is...
Diana DiMuro. Hello, hello.
How you doing, Diana?
Pretty good.
Nice. And we're joined by special guest. She's been on the podcast before. She's resident, likes to talk about ears.
Sophia Acquisto. Hi.
How you doing, Sophia?
I'm doing very good. First podcast in person.
Yes, you specifically requested that you do this podcast. We were like, we can do it on Zoom. You're like, I really want to just be in the room and taste the germs that we all will soon be trading.
See the face behind the mask.
Exactly.
Just want to taste it.
The spicy take.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here. It's nice to be doing podcasts in person again. There's nothing quite like it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we're here to talk about probably the biggest splash in the back to the movies time. You know, we had Godzilla. That was a big guy. You could stream Godzilla. We had Mortal Kombat. That's a big guy. You can stream Mortal Kombat. And the thing is, both those movies are fine. They're not tremendously cool.
Yeah, they're all right.
They're fine.
They scratched that itch a little bit.
Yeah, they're cool. They're cool back to the movies. But the summer blockbuster's back. It's here. We're here to talk about Quiet Place Part 2.
Part 2.
The quietening.
And I know
quietude.
Quiet Place 2 was delayed, but were Mortal Kombat and Godzilla also delayed, or were they scheduled for 2021?
I think all movies were delayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. That's fair.
Quiet Place Part 2 is a little bit more interesting because it was going to come out like the month the pandemic kicked off in the States. It was coming out in March. I made like a video that was going to play before it in the theater, and then I didn't have to anymore.
Awesome.
Yeah. I put work into it. It might be somewhere. I have to see if I can get that on the screen.
Nice.
But yeah, so we're here to talk about Quiet Place, our hot takes on A Quiet Place. Before I hear your burgeoning, you haven't seen we just saw the movie. That's not true. We saw it a few days ago.
It's a warmish
take. We got busy lives. Was everyone's temperature on Quiet Place Part 1? Before we jump into Part 2.
I enjoyed Part 1, but it didn't blow me away.
Some people blew away, right?
Right. Some people, I feel like it blew their socks off. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Good cast. The kiddo cast was awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate a good kiddo cast here.
Good kiddo cast. Yeah. And I liked the concept.
Right.
And granted, we were all probably excited because it's filmed in some locales that we recognize.
Yes, here in the Beacon. Even though I think this one might have been at least in the New York area. For a lot of it.
It was New Paltz and Pawling and Dover, but
not quite as cool as Beacon.
The first one was in the natural market, made to look like what I envision the natural market will look like one day. But
one day, hopefully in the very distant future. But who fucking knows, right?
Produce will be cheaper.
You can get cheaper. Yeah, way cheaper. It'll grow back on trees. Sophia, how did you feel about Quiet Place Part 1?
I loved it. I'm someone who, it depends on the horror movie. I'm more of a chicken when it comes to the really scary stuff.
Yeah. So this was good suspense, not so much horror.
A Quiet
in my
Place
mind.
isn't super scary. It's more nice PG-13, Stranger Things kind of horror.
Yeah. There's a lot of suspense where you're like, oh, no. You know something's coming. It's not necessarily things are going to be gross.
Yeah, it doesn't give nightmares or anything.
Sure.
But
it
is more focus on, I think, tension building, which can still be fear, and I still think they, they're horror movie qualifiers. The second movie, maybe less so. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
I really like the first Quiet Place. I liked it more the second time I watched it. I think when I watched it the first time, there was still a lot of like the buzz around it, and like
I think I've only seen it the one time, so I'm actually looking forward to watching it again before I revisit part 2.
That movie is it's super tight.
Yeah.
Like it's super well directed. John Krasinski's, I think, first time directing or first feature he directed.
Jim. Good job.
And he didn't write the first one. He just directed it.
He kind of adapted it a little bit.
Yeah. And that first movie is just really good. Simple premise, has, its rules very clearly established, and then the movie's just playing with those rules a lot. And I think thematically resonated with a lot of people in different ways. So now, here we are in 2021. We survived our own alien apocalypse. We've come through the other side. I wear an eye patch now. You guys,
look good with an eye patch.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Chicks dig scars. You guys both rode your Mad Max style vehicles here.
Of course.
Bludgeoning, mutants on the way in.
Furiosa. I've only got one arm.
You got one arm. Sophia, what's your mutant aesthetic? What do you look like? You saw Mad Max, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I did cut my hair, so I got that going.
There you
go. It looks good.
Yeah.
Edgy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you spray painted your mouth with chrome. And it smells awful. It's a lot. What's Dana, you start. Tell me your hot take on Quiet Place Part 2, The Quiet Ending.
The Quietude. Part 2, it was damn good. It was a lot more action sequences.
Yes.
More special effects. But
more money.
I thought it was like a great, fun blockbuster sequel. Like, I didn't go into it with very high expectations, and I thought it did a great job.
Yeah.
And the characters that were new, I liked them. And then the characters that were from the first one, they were awesome.
Still good.
And the kids were even better.
Yeah, I agree.
Potentially. I'm going to mispronounce her name. Is her name Millicent?
I think it is Millicent, yeah.
Millie?
Maleficent?
It does sound like Maleficent. I think it's
the main kiddo.
Her name's Reagan in the movie, right?
Millicent Simmons, who I've seen in one other movie, Wonder, but she's great.
She was in Wonder with Noah Jupe?
Yeah.
I don't remember her in Wonder.
Yeah, they're not in the same storylines, so it's good. Yeah, and Noah Jupe, he's a cutie, and he probably could easily be on Stranger Things.
Easily, yeah. Easily. Yeah, this movie does have... I mean, what is Stranger Things vibes, but just scary and children? Because it has Stranger Things vibes, or does Stranger Things have it vibes?
So, when we talk monsters, we can talk a little bit about that, but there are some similarities.
To the Demogorgon and the...
Yes.
Huge similarity.
And I felt that for the first one, and I think that's part of the reason why I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
but then again, I was like,
yeah, and
that's okay.
And before we go any further, just so the audience knows, we won't spoil. We won't spoil.
We won't spiral.
We won't spiral. No, we'll spiral. We won't spoil Quiet Place Part 2: Rise of the Silence, but we will spoil the first movie.
Yeah. Spoiler town.
Yeah, so if you guys are listening to this
Part
without knowing anything, you should at least watch the first one.
Right. Definitely.
Sophia, what is your hot take on Quiet Place Part 2, Revenge of the Silence?
Oh man, I loved it. I love this movie so much. So my relationship with quiet places in general has changed throughout the years, because when I saw the first one, it was 2018. I was about to graduate high school. I had no knowledge of, I know, so young.
It's disgusting.
No knowledge of ASL.
Your skin is so fresh.
Or deaf culture. So when I first watched it, I loved it. But now, I bought the DVD since because I loved it so much. And when I watch it now, I can understand some of the ASL. And I have a more of an appreciation for Millicent Simmons being like the first actress to star in like a supernatural film.
Yeah, Sophia, what do you go to college for right now?
So I go to SUNY New Paltz for childhood education.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
And I have a great interest in deaf studies and deaf culture. I've taken 2 ASL classes, so I'm not like a coda or anything. I'm not a child of deaf adults. I'm not in the deaf community. I just had deaf professors, and I'm really interested in deaf culture. I enjoy learning ASL. And actually, the ASL they use in the movie is more accurate, because with ASL, the grammar is different. So you'll notice that in a lot of movies about deaf people geared towards hearing people, what they do is they talk in regular English, like I am now,
Okay.
and they sign to assist that. So in ASL, for example, like the tree over there is green. ASL would be like tree there, green over there. And that wouldn't make sense in a movie being watched by hearing people. So like in A Quiet Place, if they said that.
That makes sense, actually, just in a lot of translations. Like Spanish is like that, Italian is
Yeah,
like
it
that.
doesn't break down.
Like,
Yeah.
like verbatim, the preposition
different-
isn't in the
different
same place.
languages.
The verb isn't always in the same order. Yeah, totally.
So what they do is they do signed exact English, SEE, which is pretty much every word they say is being signed. And A Quiet Place is easy because the sentences are generally very simple.
Sure.
Like, don't go there or something. Like, it's easy to
I
emphasize
know they
every
do
word.
the shush.
They
a
do.
lot.
They do.
They do be quiet
They
a
do
lot.
breathe a lot.
Breathe. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How does this movie? The other, your first story screen hot takes appearance was on Sound of Metal. How does this movie ASL wise compare to Sound of Metal?
So, like Sound of Metal, you'll notice they are talking in perfect English as they sign, which is accurate. A lot of deaf individuals do that. The cochlear implant. So this isn't a spoiler because they show this in the first A Quiet Place. It's impossible for a cochlear implant to emit feedback. Sorry.
Oh, that's like the whole premise of
It
the movie.
is. It's impossible because it's not a radio.
But
it's not a
is it-
frequency.
is it not-
Podcast is over.
Yeah, I
That's
guess.
it.
If it was a
debunked.
hearing aid, it would.
Well, I think it is a hearing aid, is it not?
Well, kind of. Like a hearing aid like that you would buy like to assist hearing sound.
Yeah.
Right.
That could emit frequencies. But a cochlear implant, you are completely deaf. There is a implant
yeah.
in your head.
Right.
So what it does is it bypasses the damaged portions of your ear to emulate sound. It's not actual sound you're hearing.
But I wonder if that, I mean, I know that's what he ended up getting in Sound of Metal, but is that exactly what she had in this one?
It's a
always thought
cochlear implant.
It is. Okay, because I always thought it was a hearing
I thought it was a
aid.
hearing aid as well, because I
Yeah.
was, I listened to like some like bit video with Mike before I came over of John Krasinski, like just dissecting one scene. And he was talking about how she can hear in real life, but not, just certain things very, very low. Like if somebody laughs or if somebody loud, like something happens behind her, she can tell, but it's at like a much lower level. And so that was sort of his incentive for putting in those portions where it's kind of muted, where you can hear a little bit of something, but not really hear it in full picture.
Well, like they show in Sound of Metal, like the hearing, there can be some quote-unquote residual hearing. If you have an implant, you have no hearing. It's just
Gotcha.
like trying to emulate, kind of resemble sound.
Yeah,
it can sound
interesting.
robotic. Deaf people can still really enjoy music and movies because you get that bass. Like I was
Right.
trying to
Tactile.
picture as I was watching, like how it would be for a deaf person. And Sound of Metal, first of all, I love that the whole thing is captioned.
Yeah.
Quiet Place isn't.
Right.
They caption the ASL for hearing audiences, and they don't caption the English for deaf audiences.
Right. I mean,
which
that's
is unfortunate.
That's what makes Sound of Metal so cool, is
Sound
that
of
it's
Metal's
geared
so
towards
good.
a hard of hearing
Yeah,
audience.
it's
is,
its
for
accessibility is kind
it's
of
geared
first.
towards all audiences.
Right.
So
Cool. Well, moving, pivoting from ASL talk in the movie, which seems to be that it's pretty good, but maybe Sound of Metal did it better. I don't know.
Did it better?
a little better,
Yeah.
a little
But,
better.
But yeah, how did you feel, other than that aspect of the film, how did you feel about A Quiet Place Part 2?
It was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
loved Millicent Simmons' acting. No Jupe, I love in Wonder Boy. No, it's not Wonder Boy, just Wonder. And what was the other one? I didn't see Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, he's great in
Oh, he
that.
is.
That's a great movie, actually.
I haven't seen it.
That's like I don't know. That's like a movie I would have watched with my dad on a Sunday afternoon.
That sounds like a dad movie.
It's sort of like a pseudo biopic with like Christian Bale being a pain in the ass, but you like him. So it's good.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever seen Cillian Murphy before.
Oh, you've never seen 28 Days Later?
No,
What
I
about-
recognized his
What about
face.
Dunkirk?
Oh, I have.
You've seen him in the Batman movies.
I have?
He's Scarecrow.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen Dunkirk. So maybe
I would say
have.
that would be his big break, probably, but a lot of
Yeah.
people still don't know.
Yeah, he's also in what's that Netflix show that he's in that I can't understand a word he's saying.
Oh, Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders.
I haven't seen that. Mike loves it.
Yeah, that's a show you gotta watch subtitles.
But for you all youngins, watch 28 Days Later.
Okay.
Zombies.
It's a zombie movie, so I will put that out there. But it's like one of the earlier ones, and it's Danny Boyle, so like Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh, okay.
Same director.
I love Slumdog Millionaire.
Pretty great.
28 Days
It's a
Later
pretty
rocks.
great movie. Yeah, it still holds up.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it was revolutionary when it came out.
Yeah,
for sure. Like it was doing like it was great. The inception of the dawn of the fast zombie is from 28 Days Later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think we all my hot take on Quiet Place: Return of the Quieting is I adored it. You know, I think the comparison I heard a lot, even in like the pre-release of this movie, was the big breath. The comparison to like Alien to Aliens or Terminator,
T2.
Terminator 2, Judgment Day,
Empire Strikes Back.
Well, less of that one. Just in the sense of like horror movies, then kind of having more action horror sequels.
Sure.
Which I think this is.
I would say it is a bit Empire because they split up the group to come back together.
Oh, that's fair.
Eventually.
Yeah, I buy that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in its like horror roots, it definitely has like kind of that trajectory, and you know, kind of what it trades in the first movie, which is kind of going for like more thematic resonance with like talking about the familial unit and making, you know, fear for your family be kind of like the big scare in the movie. You know, it kind of does a little bit of a trade for more big budget action set pieces, and I think the movie's all the better for it. Like whereas like the first film is kind of like a meditation on some of these like concepts, this is like a roller coaster.
That's true.
And I think it's all the better for it. It makes me want like more. Just give me more movies, more movies in this frame. I want to see these kids do all kinds of crazy shit. This is great. And yeah, I mean, and I really appreciated the like I'll save it for spoilers. I'll save it for spoilers.
Spoilies.
I'll save it for spoilers.
Spoilies. Before we get into spoilies, Sophia, you want to tell us how many times you actually saw this movie?
So in 4 days, I have seen this movie 3 times, and also I rewatched A Quiet Place. So I've seen 4 A Quiet Place movies.
So like we said, it's a warm take versus a right after.
Okay,
it's an informed take.
Yeah.
So I was only planning on seeing it twice because I wanted to see the movie twice because the second time I thought, well, first of all, I really love the movie. But I thought, okay, maybe I can look and see some more background things, like pay attention to other parts. And then as I was getting out of the second film, turns out a famous actor was in Wonder Bar, Woody Harrelson. And we found out that apparently him and his friends were going to go see A Quiet Place 2.
And his friend was Domhnall Gleeson.
Yes, who I didn't recognize
Who's
at
no
first.
schlub. We love him. We love him.
We absolutely do.
I love Frank, if you're listening. Just telling you.
Yeah.
So
You're my favorite.
So you turned around and walked right back into the movie.
When I asked Mike, he said you bought a ticket so you could sit near them.
And
I was like, is that okay?
That's not true. So I left.
Sorry, volume. Okay.
I ate dinner. I went back to Story Screen. And I was hoping that we'd at least be in the same theater. Because that'd just be so cool, seeing a movie at the same time as Woody Harrelson. And then as I'm going in, I see their whole row is still empty, except for him and a couple friends. I'm like, oh my gosh. So
doing it.
including social distancing, 2 seats away, I was right next to Woody Harrelson. And it was so awesome because they were so nice. Like, I thought, okay, I'm counting my lucky stars that I'm seeing a movie next to Woody Harrelson right now. And then they turned to me and they're like, hi, what's your name? Who are you? And
so they didn't necessarily know you worked here.
No, I just flashed them my little badge, and I was like, hi, I work here. My name is Sophia.
Word. All right.
And they were like, oh, so nice to meet you. We're sharing popcorn. And they were just asking me where I'm from. And I told Woody Harrelson that I had been reading and rereading A Glass Castle, the book, at work between movies, and I loved his portrayal of the dad Rex in it, and he was like, oh, I love that, and he said he met Jeanette Walls and he cried, and I was like, oh. So it was.
So this was a good experience.
It was wonderful.
I'm glad he's a good dude.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
It sounds like a good.
Him and his beanie. He was so friendly.
Nice.
It was great.
Very cool.
During the trailers.
Did he like the movie?
He did, and during the trailer, it was so funny to like listen to the reactions as I was watching.
Yeah.
There was like, you know how before horror movie there's like horror trailers? There was like a Candyman trailer, and after it played, he was like, "Fuck, I'm traumatized just watching that trailer."
Was that the new Candyman?
I think so.
I think we
yeah.
already played the new Candyman.
And then
trailer.
another.
Into that. I'm like, he should have played the old Candyman.
Probably will from when
Which
we
is
played,
also
when we
terrifying.
played Candyman.
Yeah.
Then another horror trailer started, and he was like, "Another horror trailer," and he was like, he was terrified.
Nice.
Is
And
Woody Harrelson even in any scary movies? I don't think
so.
He's in Zombieland, but that's,
I mean,
that's different.
Yeah.
True Detective is pretty freaking scary. The season,
Sure.
the original Recipe season that he's in is
That's
the
true.
stuff of nightmares. In
It
my
is
opinion,
it is more thriller in genre, but
Yeah.
it does certainly have its scary
and
moments.
A
yes.
plus performance. But yes,
Yeah, Woody, if you're listening, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for listening. You're a great guest.
So we're,
They were so friendly.
we're
It was
hoping they come
amazing.
back, and we're
I
hoping
hope
they
so.
tell their other friends, and that
All their
Justin
other friends,
Theroux
please.
comes too.
Yeah, I hope Justin Theroux at the coffee shop. He was nice.
He can bring his dog. It's cool.
His dog is very well behaved. I think if there's any dog that should be allowed in the theater, it's Justin Theroux's. That was like one of the most well behaved dogs I've ever met. I was
Pretty great.
like, damn. He gets almond milk cortado, I think. Unless he was getting it for a friend, but I think it was for him.
It's probably for him.
Yeah, it sounds like a thing this person drink.
Sounds healthy-ish.
Word. Well, we've talked about Quiet Place Part 2, The Deafening Silence, and then we've talked about who we've seen the movie with, famous or otherwise.
Yeah,
So I think
I saw it with these two.
Yeah.
So they're famous enough on this
fam-
podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we are hot take famous.
Yeah.
So I think it's time that we jump into the spoiler zone. I think we all recommend seeing this movie if you have not seen it yet, dear listener, right?
I'm gonna see it again.
Absolutely.
I would also like to see it.
I'll see it a fourth time.
Yeah.
Only if Woody Harrelson's there.
Oh yeah.
or another celeb. So yeah, we'll be right back with spoilies for A Quiet Place Part 2. I'm out of subtitles.
Hey guys, Mike Burge popping in here real quick to tell you about a really cool business that you should definitely be supporting, whether you live in the immediate Hudson Valley area or not. It's called Darkside Records. It's an absolutely fantastic place that you need to check out immediately. They sell everything. Anything that's cool, they got it. They're not just records, they got CDs, they got cassette tapes, they got all of the music stuff that you want to do, but they also got really cool t-shirts, they got great CBD supplement options, and they got that dank glassware. You know what I'm talking about. It's for tobacco use, but we don't have to lie about that anymore. We don't have to lie about it in New York and be like, oh, this is just for like tobacco use only. I'm going to just use this. You can use that shit for absolutely anything. You can use it for anything that you want. If you want to smoke, oregano in it, you can do that. Don't smoke anything that's going to hurt you or be really bad for you. Like, don't do that. Anyway, they have that stuff. They also got DVDs, Blu-rays. Did I mention vinyl? They also got VHS tapes, laser discs. I kind of go there to check that stuff out. It's where I get my record player fixed. It's where I get my VCR fixed. Darkside Records, friends of the show. Absolutely fantastic. They have their own podcast as well. They got 2 of them, actually. I've actually guested on them before. It's an absolutely fun business to support. You can check more stuff out by going to darksiderecords.com. You can order online and have it delivered to you wherever you live in the world. Pretty sure they'll just get it to you. And if you live in the immediate area, they are at 611 Dutchess Turnpike in Poughkeepsie. They're fantastic. Again, that website is darksiderecords.com. Visit it, check it out, see if you like it. Drop on in and see them. They are open all the fucking time. I mean, these guys wreck it. I know they're open 7 days a week, essentially 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think they have different hours on Sunday. Oh, I do know that they do because I have it written right here in the copy. They're open 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. Right now with the health and safety stuff, they're doing masks are required. All the staffs are wearing masks. Staffs are required to disinfect surface areas between visits, and there's dividers at checkout. I have gone there multiple times after the start of the pandemic, and all these different regulations and guidelines are in place. I feel completely safe. They got that little hand sanitizer squirt bottle right at the front door. I use it when I'm coming in, and I use it as I'm going out. Gonna kill whatever I'm bringing in, and I'm not taking anything out with me. They're an absolutely fantastic business, filled to the very brim with very cool people both working there and going there. So if you wanted to try and improve your coolness, you cannot do much better than starting to go to Darkside Records, the Hudson Valley's largest independent record shop.
And we're back with spoilies for A Quiet Place Part 2. I can't hear nothing. That is the title of the movie. I can't hear nothing.
Speak up, would you?
Speak up. Hey, who's saying that? So yeah, Quiet Place Part 2. A lot to spoil, though.
Spoiler town.
There was a customer that came in and said it was too quiet,
Ooh.
and they couldn't hear it.
First spoiler is Krasinski's in it. Even
Krasinski's
though
in it.
he's supposed to be dead. Flashback.
Yeah, I thought that flashback was handled really well, because we talked about it like after we had our private little screening of it,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, they're in this flashback for a while.
They were in it for a while.
But then the payoff with it, I thought was really good.
It was very good.
I love the details too. Like both movies start with a shot of the same town, and they start with a shot of the same traffic light.
Yeah.
And in the first one, it's crashed, and in the second one, it's hanging up. It's perfect. Or when they show the rocket and the pharmacy, that's clearly meant to look like the Beacon health food store.
Really just didn't do
natural
it there
food store.
again.
They didn't use the same location,
It did look
but
very
they did try
similar.
and make it look
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Unless you're from Beacon, you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
But yeah, that first sequence is pretty baller.
It's great. And then, just both movies, the first movie did this very well, and the second movie continues to do it well, is the use of when they're using sound versus when they're not using sound, and just how good kind of like the like three-dimensional space audio works, like, like little sounds and pitter-patters of feet and little things like that. Like the ambient sound is super, super cool and always like kind of expertly done. And Sound of Metal kind of does this to a perfect degree, but just kind of when they're transitioning from like the perspective of a hearing person to the perspective of like someone who is not hearing. And they do that in this movie very well, I think, too. And the way that they can kind of create tension, kind of doing that push and pull through those kind of audio spaces is also very, very cool.
Did you guys, did you assume that when it goes to, quote unquote modern day in the sequel, is it supposed to be almost immediately after the end of the first one?
Oh,
or do
it
you
is.
think...
It
Yeah,
is
immediately.
immediately. Yeah.
Okay, because I was like,
It's a little weird that they're like a little bit older than they are in the first movie, because it is like it's moments later.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
because she has like the gun in her hand. It's like she just shot the non-jamming organ.
showing the kids in the flashback section, they're obviously much bigger and older, but
I mean, if they
it's
tried
fine.
to de-age them, I'd be bitching about that right now.
Oh, totally.
that's
It's totally
expected.
fine.
Yeah, it's
But
like what they did to the poor children in It Chapter 2. It's like,
Ugh.
you've made my boys soft. What have you done to them?
I know.
They just airbrushed them to death. It's so weird.
Yeah, no Finn Wolfhard.
No.
Uh-uh.
Film, young boy.
Yeah, no. But I just couldn't remember, having only seen the first one the one time. I was like, she had the baby in the first one, right?
Yeah.
She had it, and then I was kind of forgetting the sequences of them like interacting with the baby as another
I think this
character.
movie is probably best because as I was watching it, like I remembered, I think more of it than maybe like the average viewer,
Sure.
who maybe had not watched the first movie in a while,
Right.
because I was working on that video for it a year ago. So I had seen it like, fairly recently, and I was watching it a lot as I was editing through it.
Yeah.
And as we were watching, like not like the flashback necessarily, but even now, kind of what you mentioned, Sophia, is that it probably would have been better to have watched the film like leading right up to this one, because there is so much, like it really does like bam pick up right
Yeah.
away. And it has a lot of like there's a lot of moments while they're still in the farmhouse.
Yeah, when
where
she goes down to
when
like
goes
where
down
the
the
basement
stairs
is
and
in
she
the water.
just misses the nail. And you're just like,
Right.
all right. And a lot of that stuff I was like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
I
when
almost
she's
wish
kind
I-
of fishing around in the water, at first I was like, what is she doing? And then as soon as she pulls out the O2 tank, I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah, I forgot all about the baby sarcophagus.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole concept of needing to be quiet, and you can't reason with a baby
No, you
to
can't.
tell them to not cry.
I mean, they did a
That
good.
baby
they
did
a pretty
seem
good job.
overall very quiet for a newborn baby.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
For a newborn baby, that
Totally.
was a very quiet baby.
It read the room. So I think I'm not supposed to be. I think I'm not supposed to be that loud. In what's going on here right now?
It did.
Definitely Baby produces some of the greatest tension moments in the movie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the movie just, it constantly puts our heroes in great, like, tension predicaments. And I also think the way that the movie fleshes out the world is, like, painfully efficient. Like, it's like, they're introduced, like, Cillian Murphy is the main new character. Right? He's the main new character. And the way that they catch you up to speed on him, I think, is so well done. Like, he's kind of only, like, barely in the flashback.
Right, but
it's
the enough.
The whole flashback's kind of for him, in a way.
It is. It's enough, though. It proves that the characters know each other. Mm-hmm. He had his own family to lose.
Yep.
That's all we really needed to know.
Yeah.
Everybody
didn't have a beard back then.
And he didn't have a beard.
Back then.
I was so surprised that John Krasinski had a beard to begin.
To
when
begin
it did
with?
the day one, I
mean,
was so
his beard
surprised.
is pretty well maintained.
That's true.
Yeah. He's a man. He's a vain man in the apocalypse.
They kind of paint the like I was about to say pre-pandemic. It is kind of pre-pandemic.
There is a moment when the guy,
Alien
Cillian or Cillian Murphy, when he lifts down his handkerchief, it was so reminiscent of taking off a mask in COVID to me.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
When him and Emily Blunt, like when he like lifts down the mask and looks at the baby, it's so reminiscent to me of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think there's many reasons to release a movie after the pandemic has chilled out, but I do think one of the reasons it's like, even if they try to release this streaming for like a price point, it's just not the movie people want to watch.
Maybe not
during a pandemic, because it does have so many like. I mean, there's some people who are just sadistic fucks and they'll watch the movie Pandemic during the pandemic, and but I can see this movie feels like a better like. Now we got that a little bit more behind us. I'm glad we have some distance from peak pandemic before watching this movie.
I mean,
at least on my end.
Who's to say too? I mean, I don't know with some of the movies that are getting released now, whether editors, directors have had more time to tighten things up, to look at stuff.
I'd imagine so.
I would assume so with at least some movies that are coming out months and months later, So I feel like when they come out now, they're going to be like really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of films, like post-production is the crunch time, and any benefit to giving editors and directors more time in the post-production chair is only better for the movie, because movies are best, I think, when they can be cut down and streamlined, and that's all editing is kind of chiseling away till you kind of got the most concrete, solid vision.
This didn't feel overly long. I liked that it ended where it did.
Short.
It was good. It was satisfying.
I think the pacing of this movie is brilliant. I think this movie, I thought The First Quiet Place was directed spectacularly. I think this movie from a John Krasinski wrote and directed it, and I think the pacing and the direction, I think, was tremendous. I think the ways that they choose to build tension, like, I'm glad we saw it. I mean, Sophia, I know you saw it like 3,000 more times, but I'm glad that we saw it privately, because I was hooting and hollering.
For the first time. Me too. I was next to you.
If someone was like in the theater, if someone shushed me during watching that movie, I'd be like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Like, do you see what's happening? Like, The Quiet Place Part 1, I think, is a movie where it is best if the whole theater can be quiet. This movie is like, I don't know, man, we're on the roller coaster. Like, I think it's okay to kind of be like,
there was a lot of jump scares and I always respond to those. So there's a lot of like,
I was jumping the third time watching it.
Yeah.
And when I watched it with a Gleason, oh my god, he was jumping at every minute. He was like, what he would do is like he would get nervous and start laughing, and then the whole theater would laugh like out of like awe, like after the intro, and like there's like the credits, like he'd be like, and like the whole theater, he would go like he would clap behind his head, and like.
I mean, that's part of any audience experience that can make or break it.
It's like a community experience.
There were people that brought little children into The First Quiet Place when I saw it, and that was bad because there were
talking probably too.
Yeah,
because that's what you don't want. When like,
they're talking.
Why is the baby dead in the beginning of the movie?
They're like, what's going on when Emily Blunt's water breaks, and that's like a scary sequence in that movie.
Yeah. And it's also hard to explain to a child during A Quiet Place Part 1 the
Childbirth.
miracle birth,
right?
When it's like she's Shut up.
Yeah, and there was also like a lot of like loud, super loud popcorn eating during the first one, which I felt like had more sequences of quiet than this one. This one had a lot more action.
That's what I mean. Like, I think this movie, it's like, you know, I'm going to give the Robby seal of approval to be a little louder during this movie.
Yeah. You'll know when you should probably try and be quiet, and it's not for very long.
No one likes the question asker during the movie. So just don't do that. But if you got to yell during a jump scare, hopefully you're not the only one.
Oh, yeah.
I'd imagine. Yeah, hoot hollering. I love that this movie continues to not be concerned about like where the aliens come from.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so good.
I do too.
Like the
it just weighs it
birds.
down, you know?
And I also like the fact that it's not one of those movies where we need to have some kind of overall empathy for this alien creature. It's just scary.
It's just the alien.
They haven't made us in Stranger Things feel for the Demogorgon yet, have they?
No.
Not
They
really.
will, I feel like they will. They'll be like, actually, they are part of like the delicate ecosystem of the
I've never empathized for the COVID. Why would I empathize for aliens? It's just
Well,
it's so
you know,
weird.
that you say that now until you
Right.
realize that you
But
have
I feel,
to.
but there are interesting movies and takes where that is part of the equation. But I like in this sort of action, you know, horror genre.
They are
that
a
it's just
vessel of
actually-
tension. you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Stranger Things does do that. Because think about 11.
sure.
Well, she has like a direct some like connection
Yeah.
with
So
them.
like
right?
sometimes she like uses her powers like for bad, kind of like if she does something bad, or there's like theories that the only way the Upside Down will close is if she dies too. Like, so that is kind of complicated.
Well, I mean, the Russians keep fucking opening it, so
Yeah.
Right.
but-
right now she's the only thing standing in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's cool, and like I also like that this movie doesn't have a lot of like, you know, you should feel for the villain, and the movie doesn't really have a villain. Like you meet like those weird like boat cannibal. I assume sex offenders. They seem like they were gonna do a bad thing.
They did, but can we talk about how like is this gonna if there's a third movie, which I feel like this the way it ends abruptly sets it up potentially for a third movie.
It's getting one.
Are we to infer that there's some sort of illness or zombie-like effect or something? Because all those people on the dock had crazy weird red.
I feel like they
eyes.
just were like fucked up from being like. Cause I think like you're
From
just
incest? What are we thinking?
maybe. I mean, well, maybe they were like in some kind of
I don't know.
I think
Or the Cillian Murphy's wife died because she got sick, but we don't know what she got sick from.
True.
that's true. I
think
mean,
it's
you
like a
could
cult.
take it
She
in
could have
that
gotten sick
direction.
from anything, though, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, in the post-apocalypse where you don't have
She could
access
have
to good health,
cancer and just no medicine.
she got cancer. She could have had something that started off something
Something
like she could have had
low-key.
tetanus, and
Yeah,
it just
that's
turned
true.
into they don't have access to
That's very true.
the things that you
Yeah.
need. Even
I
that
was-
the kid who got his was it Noah Jupe?
Oh,
The bear trap scene. I guess
Man.
we haven't even fucking talked about that.
spoiler town.
We didn't spoil it. We didn't spoil it.
This is
Gross.
the third time.
That's
and
like
I
the one
still-
scene that's gross.
Yeah. Well, you know, the movie's such a good.
tense.
Again,
It's
it's
so
the audio
good.
that I think is why that movie will always make you jump.
Yeah.
Because if you're
Blood
seeing in the
curdling
theater and you can
scream.
be super loud, it's because the audio hits you like a truck every time.
Yeah.
Because the movie's so quiet otherwise. So it's like it's hard to escape the jump scares in this
Yeah.
movie or just like the
And this,
tension.
And this is why deaf people enjoy the movie too, because when you watch it in a theater, especially when you have like surround sound or something, you can still feel the
that.
bass. Like you
Yeah.
can feel it in your chest
Right.
when there is a jump scare.
It's pretty wild, this movie, compared to the first one, too. Whereas the first one, there was so much emphasis on not speaking, trying to stay quiet. And then in this one, that's still true, but we do have these instances where Noah Jupe steps on the trap and his leg is getting fucking shredded and he is screaming.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, he's screaming. He's screaming. Oh, be quiet, be quiet. You know?
But then it's like,
And then the
but then you
baby.
hear,
Yep.
and then the baby's crying, and then you hear Emily Blunt trying to be like, stop. And it's like, oh, but you know he can't stop.
Yeah.
His fucking
Yeah.
foot, I think, has to go. For
Yeah.
a while, I was just like, I guess they're going to take that foot off. He made it.
I thought that too, because to be honest with you, I don't know that every situation like that would have just been okay afterwards, like puncture wound. Like I feel like getting a trap off of a foot like
Yeah.
that would have tore that foot up.
I mean, I think you have to. They did enough to help you suspend your disbelief because
Yeah.
he did have to deal with it for the rest of the movie.
Yep,
It was an issue for the whole movie.
that's true. And she
And
was
she
worried
was
it was
able-
going to get infected.
So she had to get the antibiotics, which
Yeah.
she did get for him, and you saw his condition deteriorate
Right.
by the end of the movie while he's dealing with all the other shit too. So
That's true.
So I think, if he's in the third movie walking fine and running, I'd be like, all right, they did enough. But it would be better if they gave him a limp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be better.
Whew.
But I think what you do in the movies going forward is you just continue to expand the world. And that's a lot of what I think this movie does, because it's less of a focus on the first movie is about like, how does a family unit survive in this alien world? This next movie is like, how is the world doing? Or how is these like little pockets of communities doing in the world?
I was going to say, it deals a lot with like the kids being cognizant of the rest of the world. Like, she wants to help everyone else.
She wants to reach out.
Once she knows that she can help, she's like, but I could stop it for everybody. It's not so much just about the family. It's like, okay, it's outside the family.
She has more like humanitarian
Right.
call to action.
Totally. And I could see it's like her age bracket being just kind of motivated to like want to help do things and not want to just sit and hide,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, I get, so like, they show you kind of like what, like all like kind of what like the pockets of like what could be going on in this world. They show you like what a character like Cillian Murphy's dealing with, where he's like, I don't want to fucking be dealing with anybody right now.
Right.
They show you kind of like these like people with scurvy, basically. Like these just like, well, I think that's cool. Like, you see that in a lot of, I think, post-apocalyptic narratives where there's like one crew of people. You have the people on the island who are just like, we're actually doing pretty fucking good now.
Until we let freaking Cillian Murphy and Millicent onto the island.
Bad time.
And then Demogorgon floats over on his raft.
They show you, and that also like is really cool because they show you how even like one fuck up is enough to just set you back like 100%. So I think going forward, they'll do more to show you maybe like more communities and have a juxtaposition of just like some people who don't have access to a lot of resources or just like are burned a lot. I don't know. Like literally they had weird burns on them.
So definitely, again, speaking of Cillian Murphy, if you haven't seen 28 Days Later, you should, because that's a movie that deals with zombies, but it deals with the fact that just the rest of the human race can be a lot worse.
Yeah.
In situations like that. Yeah, it brings out the worst in people.
Games, like also deal with that, especially the first one where they, they'll have, you're following these two main characters who are generally pretty good, except for maybe you learn that maybe the one character you're playing as is kind of on more of a redemption arc because he was kind of a piece of shit.
Right.
And then, as you're meeting other characters, even characters who are nice, you see just how easily they're under such dire strains of survival, you might have to do things you're not proud of.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, like these people are just trying to survive and maybe do a weird sex thing, which isn't cool.
Gross.
But, yeah. It's not good.
Yeah, but that was a very cool callback to the flashback when it was like the one motion that Cillian Murphy remembered was dive.
I knew it from like the start. Like that was such a give. Like of course
Chekhov's dive. Yes.
Yeah.
Chekhov's sign language.
Dive.
Yeah.
I love that whole scene though, because everything about it is ingenious. Like how he's trapped.
Yep.
Is great because you see that girl on the dock and you're like, I was she gonna fucking do something. Like, I was like, she's gonna yell.
Well, at first I thought she was gonna bite him or something. I was like, this is a zombie child? What is this?
Yeah, I thought she was gonna be dead or something.
But then like the way that like he was trapped, where he was covered in balls, so it was just like, hey, you can't do anything.
Right.
And
bells around your neck.
And I love how when he's underwater, he's like, getting strangled, and you're like, cut the rope, fucking do something. Right. And it's when the monster when the dude gets just fucking beheaded. You're like, oh, he's good now. Like that's such good such good planes action.
Yes.
It's like the Rube Goldberg. What's the machine that's like
Rube
a bunch
Goldberg. Yeah.
That's the one. Where it's just like everything's just falling into place narratively. So good. It's such brilliantly like placed action. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. I think one of my favorite tense parts is, I feel like this should have been in the trailer or something. So one of my favorite parts is in the radio at the end when they're doing the on-air thing, when he takes his hand on the glass and slowly
that's one of the best shots in the movie.
Yeah.
I love that shot.
It's
I love
so good.
it so much.
I liked all of the new sets, the new set pieces, like being in that
the radio tower was really
Steelworks
cool.
factory, the radio tower.
Metro North.
Yeah. The train car. I was like, why are you going in there? You could have just walked around it. But she looked like she was trying to get the first aid kit, so
that kind of became the mission eventually.
Why did Noah have to go exploring?
Yeah,
like that was for no reason. He stayed with the baby.
That's like just being young and dumb.
Yeah,
that's like being bored and
he's definitely young.
and also curious. He's just like he's supposed to be a younger character.
It also, I thought that scene was really good in making you maybe feel more in danger for Reagan's character, because she's with Cillian Murphy and he's exploring his house basically, and it's creepy because it's like, oh, he drew his child. Let's see.
Like a million times?
3,000 fucking times.
Yeah.
Okay. And his dead wife is still here. So you're just like, all right, maybe
she's kind of mummified at that point.
So you're like, maybe this dude's like a lot more unstable than you think he is. And then it kind of turns out that he's
I was
a lot more
thinking
stable.
maybe those drawings were made by the wife when she was in the bed, like she missed her son.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Oh,
you see him drawing.
That's a good point.
They might have both been doing it. Because I think you see him drawing at one point.
Yeah.
Because they were mostly in that bedroom, so I thought maybe she really missed her son.
Maybe if they were just sitting together for that long period of time.
What's he going to do?
And there's nothing else to do, exactly. I'm still kind of amazed that there's any form of electricity. I would think that would have been destroyed, but I guess not.
Well, I think they had a lot of candles, and I think, if you have like a generator that can run on like kinetic energy, like a water turbine or something.
I did love that factory though, like them being able to kind of close that. What is that? Like, what are they shutting off?
That tank? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like some kind of.
It's such a good point of tension.
Yeah, the fact that there's not enough air in there to stay in there longer than like however many minutes, 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
I was really expecting the baby to not make it.
Me too.
Well, I was expecting just a big death. I was like, all right.
I was like, baby's going to be blue when they open that.
Well, I was thinking Emily Blunt dies, and then the next movie's the kids.
Yeah.
And how they move on in the world.
That's true.
It's fine that she didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm not upset about it, but that's the direction I thought they were going to go in, especially given the ending too. I feel like there might be a draft of this movie where she didn't make it. Because like the ending is very much like, they have overcome all obstacles.
Well, I just like that it is kind of like it was with the parents being brave and stepping up to protect, and then this one is sort of like the kids are taking it onto themselves to trying to protect these other people that they care about.
The future is
very
good.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
The score is really beautiful in that last sequence when like both the kids are kind of mirrored in what they're doing.
Oh yeah, it makes me tear up.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a really cool movie. I think when I said earlier, like it lacks more of like the meditative thematic resonance the first movie might have had, but I think even in its actiony moments, there's still a lot to analyze and look into, and I think there's even more going on under the surface of the movie than just being down, fucking cool. But it is certainly down, fucking cool. Like it does that very well.
Yeah.
Anyone have any other moments they really want to talk about? I mean, Sophia, you have the entire film in your head.
Lay it on us, man.
Scene by scene.
Yeah. I love the movie. I have ideas of what the third will be about.
Speculate.
When I speculate that, based on watching the first one, there's a lot of newspaper headings that say "Get Underground." And that's kind of what they show in the second one, where they do have like that underground chamber. So I think the key, if they're gonna wrap it up, because it doesn't seem like they can kill all the monsters, because more than 3 monsters die in A Quiet Place 2, and the dad thought there was only 3 monsters to begin with. So there's more than that. It's confirmed because they kill 1 in the first, and they kill at least 3.
I mean, even that flashback sequence, it looks like meteor shower, rocket, whatever. Who knows how many things are on whatever.
I mean, who even knows if like the whole world's dealing with it? I'd imagine, because you'd think someone would step in and try.
Or it could be a radio signal, but
something. Yeah.
So for the third one, I think the key will be they may find some underground community or create one where they can like live in peace.
And it's like Love and Monsters, which I also love.
I do love that movie too. Yeah, I mean, the
also there's only 1 implant that does that frequency, which isn't inaccurate. But there is only that one thing he tampered with. So there has to be a second, at least, if something happens to that.
Or a way to replicate what it's doing.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the natural progression, or at least what it's Krasinski's job to surprise us and delight us.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, with those types of stories, the natural progression is just like, all right, they want to, start anew. With these post-apocalyptic stories, it's like, all right, how do we hit reset? How do we start anew? How do we bring humanity out of Phoenix from the ashes?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they will get so grandiose tackling that in the next movie. I feel like there need to be a few more movies before you get to like that point.
I think they may just spend the next movie trying to get back together with the family. Like, I feel
Actually,
like
they are separate.
You know, at the end of the second one, they're separated. Yeah, it may be like the incredible journey to get back to mom and Noah Jupe and the baby.
I think it's good to keep it tight with hints of the bigger world.
Yeah,
because I think that's what this movie does, where it's like, you know, it's a 90-minute movie. It's pretty tight. Like they don't cover.
There's no filler.
Yeah, they don't cover too much ground. You know, it's really towards the end of the movie when like they basically like island top. You're like, oh, they actually covered a great distance in this film. But for the most part, it's like pretty. You know, there's not a lot of miles covered in the film. You know.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens to the next one. And again, like, you know, I think, I'm glad Emily Blunt's character survived, but she didn't have, like, a ton to do in this movie.
She didn't. You
know? And that's why I'm like, kind of surprised that she just didn't kick the bucket. But I'm very happy that she had her moment where she got to shoot all the tanks.
Yeah, she got her leg cut pretty bad at the end of the movie. And so did Cillian Murphy. He got hurt at the end of the movie, too.
So maybe the beginning of the next movie is like they...
I don't know. Or it's kids got to take the lead because they got to take care of the adults.
I was really surprised that Evelyn, the mom, asked Emmett to go after her daughter. That seemed really weird for a character to me because the whole time she's very self-reliant, very independent.
Well, it was really hard for her.
And also Emmett the whole time at that point is like, I don't want to take care of you guys. Get out, be out. Yeah. So it seems weird that she's relying on him.
Yeah, I think it's...
I mean, the fact that she has a newborn baby.
She has a baby, but then she leaves her son with him.
Well, because she has to get the medicine. I think she knew she couldn't do it all. Yeah. And I think even in that moment, it was really... She asked very, like, matter-of-factly, but it was because she's like, there's no other option. You have to do this.
Right.
You have to do this. There's no other option. Because she
doesn't have her husband anymore.
There's no way for her to get the medicine and get her daughter. And she wasn't willing to choose.
Right.
So,
she couldn't get her daughter and get her medicine on the way back.
I think they were in opposite directions.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I don't know. She didn't have the mom minivan to do all the She couldn't. I gotta go to the CVS. I gotta go get my daughter from where the fuck she went. I gotta go to soccer practice.
I gotta pick up more O2 for my baby because we don't
pick up way more O2. You know, she needed some help from an old friend. True. Who seemed to be losing his mind.
I was also like, Cillian Murphy's wearing shoes, yo. No one
That's
else.
I noticed that too.
And I was like, so can the rest of the family start wearing shoes? Because clearly it's not that much louder.
Yeah. It's like you feel at this point they could make some kind of makeshift shoe because they show their feet are like bleeding.
Well, I mean she stepped on the nail.
Yeah. Ugh. I think, the idea, or maybe it's not the idea, but what I like from some characters' different footwear choices is that it just shows how different
everyone deals with it differently.
Where it's like, again, like there is no rule book to like alien invasion. Well, you're supposed to wrap your feet and do this. They were like, off. We're just gonna do that. And then Emily Blunt's character is retreading the like the path, the white path they made back through the first movie and back to like
back to that pharmacy
where the pharmacy is. So like they. And that's what that first movie's all about, is like how that family developed their own rule set and how they had an advantage because they already had a deaf child. So they already were like,
they have a way to communicate
like
with everyone in the family.
They had a leg up. It's why they kind of made it as long as they did.
That's true.
Another thing I love about this film is when they use ASL when Reagan isn't around.
Yeah.
I love
that's cool.
that.
Yeah.
And it's not even just a survival thing. Like, I love that.
It's how the family talks.
Exactly. Yeah. Even in like day one, like in the baseball game, you see she's signing him to breathe.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. It makes it feel like they're all being treated equal.
Yeah.
I like it.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, guys. Anything else?
Go see it. It's fun.
Hopefully you've already seen it if you've made it this far, because we told you
Go watch it again in the theater.
In
the theater.
It's best in the theater. You gotta see it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
This is awesome.
Yes, and thank you, listeners, so much for listening. As I mentioned up top, and I will say again, we're not the only podcast on Story Screen. StoryScreenBeacon.com is a host of many podcasts, articles, and reviews. You can go find us on YouTube and see our videos. You can also go on our website and find showtimes for the drive-in, for the theater, and you can also go to our members-only service for only $5. Hey, I'm talking to you. For only $5, you can get access to even more cool content like this, where we get even more niche and talk about weirder shit. Still movie related for the most part, or adjacent. Really cool stuff like we have a whole show dedicated to just talking about Toni Collette. Did you think you do want that? You think you didn't? You do. Me and Mike are doing a show where we're talking about video game adaptations. We also had a series where we dissected every single John Carpenter movie because I only saw a handful.
It's a great series. The Stalking Carpenter is my fave, man.
Thank you.
It's really good.
Much.
Some good movies.
It was a bummer towards the end because
not as good.
Not as good. But some of the ones, I mean, hey man, some of those classics are great. And I got to, it was a little bit of like film school for me. So hopefully it can be a little bit of film school for you guys. And it's way cheaper than film school.
It is.
$5 a month. That's super cheap. Unless you're subscribed to us for like 50 years, it might add up. But I don't think we're gonna make it that long. As a plan. Maybe the listener would.
I'll probably die young, so no.
Yeah, who knows? All right, so that's all the business. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll be back with more hot takes on the new movies we love to see. What's in the Quiet Place Part 3? Return of the Quiet?
The
Adventure
Underground.
Of the Quiet. That's it.
Quiet Place Part 3. The Underground.
Shh.
Bye.
So yeah, we'll be right back with spoilies for A Quiet Place Part 2. I'm out of subtitles. All right, anyone need to do a pie break or anything?
I could picture the music starting in my head.
Well, I'm glad I finally dropped my phone because I almost dropped it like 3 times.
About time, they say.
Well, bam!